So I'm Gareth Morewood, the educational advisor at Studio 3, talking to the CEO, Professor Andy McDonnell, who's got a new book out, The Reflective Journey, a practitioner's guide to low arousal. I'm just wanting to start with, before we talk specifically about the book, Andy, why did you think it's an important text to write at this time?
Yeah, it's in context because obviously my academic interest years ago, I'm a practitioner at heart, was actually on the concept of low arousal, which kind of name was first used in the 1990s. But then it caught on, and it caught on in different ways with different people defining it, which is okay. And then I realised that a couple of my colleagues, Bo Harskov-Elven, for example, in Sweden, Linda Woodcock in the UK, they've all written quite good practitioner books on low arousal. And then I realised, although I talk about it, I teach people about it, I haven't actually ever got around to writing what I consider to be the practitioner book. So this is a kind of culmination of a number of ideas as a practitioner, really, not Andy McDonnell, the pseudo-academic, about what do we mean by this approach. And the shift for me was shifting into what is it about the approach rather than what you do in crisis. So what is the low arousal practitioner? How do we develop people who are better practitioners? So that's where the idea of the reflective journey in the book came from.
And so I would say that being a low arousal practitioner, it's sort of heavily leans on being a reflective person. And obviously with this being a reflective journey, so is this looking externally from the journey that you've had over the years, or very much from within?
Yeah, I've tried to be honest about it because obviously, you know, I enjoy bridging the worlds between academia and practical things, but actually most of the things I've learned from people, like we were discussing. You know, probably the best practitioners I've ever come across of the low arousal approach are family members who don't have extra resources to call on and extra staff and all the other things that we have with it. So they practice the approach. And I think for me, there's a personal part about it because it's a time in my life when I actually start thinking about how did I really get into this kind of work? So I've tried to be honest in the book about the fact that sometimes to be a reflective practitioner, you need to learn from your mistakes as well. And I don't think I've always been a paragon of best practice in anything I've done. But what I think I've actually been okay at is actually learning from my mistakes and also learning from successes and thinking, how can it make me a better person? And by about, to be honest, Gareth, about 10 years ago, there was this horrible, horrible realisation as people said to me, this is more of a philosophy, the low arousal approach, rather than just a set of tools for managing crisis. But I realised that actually quite a lot of the work and the clinical work that my colleagues do as well, and it's not just about me, is all about reflection. And actually the cornerstone of the low arousal approach is that reflected, open-minded person who celebrates success and learns and analyses it, but equally analyses crises and situations and thinks about themselves. My colleague Bo Elven in Sweden, we were talking about this recently, and Bo's a lot into philosophy and everything ranging from Aristotle. If you get him on that sort of subject, it gets like some kind of Channel 4 documentary. But one of the fundamental things that we agreed on is that we're all humanists, and actually one of the things that a lot of us share who are practitioners of this approach is fundamentally we're humanists, i.e. we're very much concerned with the development of human beings. We're very much in terms with growth, individualised learning. I don't want it to make it sound too kind of cliche. We're also compassionate individuals who can actually walk a mile in someone else's shoes. I mean, when I first trained, Gareth, I was what they call a radical behaviourist. I tell people now, somebody should have told me I was mad, crazy and unwell in the early days. I wanted to see the world very simply. But actually what I learned from this and the approach was that it is that phrase, walk a mile in another person's shoes. When you start seeing things from the person's perspective, it starts changing your practice. So for me, the whole idea of what makes a low arousal practitioner and self-help exercises around this doesn't mean to say that I'm the same as you, but we're all on that same journey, and it is a journey. You know, I really want to stress to people that isn't some book about, you know, just being nice to people. You know, humanism is actually quite difficult. As somebody said to me recently, the acid test of a low arousal approach is actually when someone's screaming and shouting at you and your brain says, bite back, and your body says, better not do this. Because it's not going to help the situation. So for me, that's how it started. So there is some attempt at philosophy, but I don't really want to stand on a pulpit and preach to people. So there's some elements. All the examples in the book are drawn from not just my own, but colleagues, and they're all anonymised, I should stress as well. So we're not naming names within it. And some people, we've changed the context, the setting, even their ages. But every example in there is a real example. And I would say probably 2/3 of them are my own over my fortunately long career. But some of the best ones in there are actually some of my colleagues. And I think they'll know who they are when they do look through the book. In fact, somebody said recently, what page am I on and what example? And of course, that'll be a bit of mystery for them in the future, won't it?